is selling. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Hello, Brian Park speaking.
Oh, hello. I'm calling about the advert in the paper.
For the car?
Yes, the Mini you've got advertised for sale.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to find out a bit more information.
Of course. What would you like to know?
It's my brother who's interested, actually, but he's not in today, so he asked me to call you.
Fine.
Great, thanks. So it's a Mini,
Yep.
and how old is it?
Just coming up to 13 years old.
And I seem to remember from the ad that it's grey.
That's it. Doesn't show the dirt.
Absolutely. Anyway, the colour shouldn't be a problem for Jeff. You know, the important thing is the quality.
Yes, of course.
And what about mileage? With it being pretty old, it's probably over 100,000?
Actually, it's 40,000 less than that. 62,000 on the clock.
Great! I remember now. I'm confusing it with another ad I was looking at.
Right. Pleasant surprise then.
Yeah. Have you been the only owner, or was there a previous one?
I'm the second one. Before, it was owned by a teacher who was a very careful driver. Didn't have any accidents.
Very good. And what about you? What do you tend to use it for?
I haven't used it all that much, mostly for shopping. You know the sort of thing.
So not much wear and tear. I'll make a note of that. I know Jeff wanted me to check that.
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Now, about the price, I see you've got it down as £1,250. I'm not sure Jeff will be able to come up with that amount.
In the ad, I did say 1,250 or nearest offer.
So would you be prepared to go down to 1,000?
That's really too low, I'm afraid.
1,100?
I might be able to go to that.
Okay, I'll make a note of that. What about tax? Is it due soon?
Got another 5 months before it's due.
Oh, that's a real plus, yes. I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
Now, you say it's in good condition.
For its age, I'd say yes, definitely. It's just been serviced and there were no major problems.
Major.
I'd be able to show you the service report. The only thing is, you'd have to get a new tyre in the near future. Though it's still okay, you know. It's certainly absolutely safe at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, I understand.
And the garage also mentioned that one headlight could probably do with replacing. They think there's a fault there, you know, intermittent.
Well, we'd obviously look at all the documents, but that sounds very straightforward.
Of course. I've got all the service documents up to date and you can look at those.
Well, it all sounds pretty good, and I know my brother will be interested, so would it be possible for him to see the car? He's back from his trip tomorrow and away tonight, so how about tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Wednesday? I'm afraid that's not possible. I'm out pretty much all day.
Well, Thursday then?
That'd be fine, yeah.
In the morning?
Yes, that'd suit me perfectly.
Great.
Now, you'll need my address.
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
It's number 238,
238?
London Road.
Oh, that's easy enough.
Yes, very straightforward.
So I'll pass on these notes to Jeff, and he'll see you in a couple.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Hello, welcome to the university. Let me introduce myself. My name's Helen Brown. I'm the International Office Administrator, and I'm responsible for looking after students here on scholarships, in particular Chevening scholars. Perhaps you could introduce yourselves to me.
Hi, I'm Ansgar from Grasse in southern Austria.
And my name is Magali. I'm from a town near Montpellier, France.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleased to meet you too.
Nice to meet you.
So, let's get started. I'm going to tell you about the schedule for today. Today is your orientation day at the university, and it's going to begin in half an hour at 10 o'clock with a speech from the Vice-Chancellor welcoming you to the university.
That's very nice. Where is it?
It's in the main hall on floor 3.
Okay, but how do we get there?
From here, the International Office, go down the corridor, past the lecture theatre and student common room. Then you'll be at the main entrance and you'll see the lift to your left. Take the lift to floor 3 and the main hall entrance is after the buffet.
Okay, floor 3 after the buffet. I can always find my way to food, so we'll be able to find the main hall, no problem.
So after the Vice-Chancellor greets the new students, then 30 minutes later, the Mayor will welcome you to the city. Together it should be about an hour, so it's not too much of a drag.
And what happens then?
After that, you'll have a meeting with a representative of the British Council, and she will brief you on life in Britain and what your sponsor expects, and of course doesn't expect from you.
It will be nice to meet them. Is that in the main hall too?
No, but it is on floor 3 again. With your back to the main hall, go down the corridor past the labs.
Sorry?
The laboratories, on your right, and the computer cluster rooms on your left, and at the end of the corridor are seminar rooms 1 and 2. Your meeting is in seminar room 2.
Did you mention what time that is?
No, I didn't. It's at 11:15 and it should last about half an hour. You'll meet her a number of times during your studies, so it's important to go to that meeting.
Okay, I'll make sure Magali is on time.
Ansgar, I'm always on time.
Very well. Now for the final part of the morning and lunch, you'll be with your department.
We're both doing biomedicine.
Oh, that's interesting.
But we're not sure how to get to our department.
Well, you don't need to go very far from seminar room 2. The laboratories and seminar rooms all belong to your department. So basically, you need to turn left out of seminar room 2 and go past the next 2 teaching rooms. Your departmental office is on the left.
Will someone be there to meet us?
Oh, but of course. At 12 o'clock, the course administrator will meet you at the departmental office and introduce you to members of staff and the head of department, Professor Heanue.
Heanue? How do you spell that?
Heanue. He will tell you about the department and your course, the coursework and academic life in Britain. Have you both got reading lists?
Yes, I have.
I'm afraid I haven't.
You can get one at that meeting. Then finally, as it's your first day, you'll have lunch with the department staff in the refectory from 1 to 2.
Oh, that's really nice.
Great.
There's just one more thing. In the afternoon, you have the chance to meet other international students in the main hall again. And you can ask them about their time at the university. That's from 2:30 onwards.
I'm looking forward to that.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
So you're thinking of opening a bank account with us?
That's right.
And you are an international student at the university?
Yes, I am.
And how did you hear about us?
From Student Services. They gave me a list of banks near the university, and I chose this one because you have a branch near campus and a student advisor at the bank.
Yes, I'm part of the student advice team. There are 3 of us here. Right, now I'll go over the services we offer to international students, and then we can go through a few details before we set up your account.
Okay.
We can offer you a current or cheque account and a savings account.
Do you pay interest on the current account?
We do, but not very much, about 1.5%. You get a much better interest rate on the savings account, around 4%. We also give you a free overdraft facility.
I'm sorry?
If you run out of money, we allow you to spend more money than you have in your account. That's the overdraft. But you can only take out up to £100. If you need more than £100, then you must tell us before you take any more money out.
I see.
Now, once your current account is open, then you can set up direct debits for any regular payments you need to make.
Could you tell me how that works?
Well, for instance, let's take your mobile phone. You have to pay a certain amount every month for it.
Yes.
So you can tell us to pay that amount each month and we'll do it automatically for you.
I see.
As soon as your account is open, we will send you a debit card, which you must sign immediately and keep in a safe place. Then a day or 2 later, we'll send you a personal identification number.
A PIN number?
Yes, and you must keep the number secret. You can change it if you like when you use it for the first time, but if you change it, you must remember the number. If you forget or lose the number, then we have to send you out a new card and a number for security reasons.
Okay.
The next thing you could do is open a savings account. If you know you have to save a certain amount of money to pay your accommodation or course fees, we can open a savings account for you to put aside some money each week or month.
How can I do that?
You can manage your accounts in one of 4 ways. You can come into the bank here on the university campus and tell us what you would like to do, or you can call us on 08457 004 004 and instruct us what to do over the phone. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Alternatively, you can manage your account over the internet.
I see.
You have to go online and register at our website at www.hsbc.co.uk/online-banking before you can use the service. Finally, if you have a digital TV, you can use TV banking by pressing interactive on your digital TV remote control.
Oh, really? I don't have a digital TV, unfortunately, but I can do the first 3 things.
Now, do you have any insurance?
What's that?
For example, if you lose something or one of your possessions is stolen, we will cover the cost of it.
How much does that cost?
It's £24 a year, so it really is worth thinking about.
I don't need to think about that. I'll take out insurance.
I'll arrange that for you as soon as your account is open. Now, would you like to go ahead and open an account with us?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hello, Sally and Mike.
Hello, Professor.
Welcome to the third meeting of our after-school club, where we discuss topics from the syllabus in order to help you to understand your classwork better. Now, I hope that you've read the notes I gave you last week on the ancient African traditions, as this will be the focus of our discussion today. Who can tell me how they were able to recognize different stars?
Did they measure the distance between them?
No, Sally, I'm afraid that's incorrect. Mike, do you know the answer?
Historians used to think that the ancient Africans recognized stars by observing the manner in which they affected each other, but further research showed that they used the location of the stars in order to distinguish one from the other.
Well done, Mike. Very good. Can either of you tell me anything about the Wayaka people?
They have a lot of money, but do not trust banks to keep it safe. They believe that it's in their best interest to help themselves, not assist others. Instead, the tribe looks after their own finances and generate income from lending money to others in low-interest loans.
What problems do the Africans suffer from?
They used to suffer greatly from drought. However, they have now developed clever ways of overcoming it by moving to higher land. There are, however, far more predators in these mountainous areas, so it is vital that the Africans learn how to protect themselves in this new environment.
Yes, that's right. Also, compared to more developed countries, the Africans are less concerned with their international status, which I find interesting.
Very good. What else are the local people concerned with?
Unlike other, poorer tribes, they have plenty of nourishing food, and they are able to afford vaccines that prevent them from catching diseases.
They historically lived in the west of Africa, although later they were chased off their land by other tribes competing for food and water. It is their hope that they will eventually be able to return to their original homeland.
Why has the financial condition of the African people deteriorated?
Despite their modern transportation system, they find it very difficult to trade because their tools are not sophisticated enough to mine minerals from the land. They have permission to engage in these commercial activities, so once they have the right tools, they will be able to develop a very large income from trade.
Do you think that this new income will stop Africans suffering from starvation in the near future?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. They should be able to start trading next year, but they will only have enough income to start growing sufficient food and crops to support the local people in the long-term future.
Yes, that's correct.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now, listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
There are many charities from developed countries that are helping to ship food to African countries in order to feed the starving. Unfortunately, it is difficult to transport a lot of food to the right places, but Africans are very good at sharing and making sure that everyone gets something to eat.
African governments are also starting to pay more attention to the needs of their people. They have been directing a lot of money to help build schools in the more impoverished villages as a part of their new education plan, which is fantastic. This means that, hopefully, all African children will be able to attend school daily without having to walk long distances.
Yes, absolutely. Do you remember any other information from your class notes?
Historically, the tribes in Africa often used to migrate across the country in search of food and water. They would live in tents that were easy to dismantle and transport to other locations.
That's true, but now they are being encouraged to settle down in one area so they can establish colonies and build facilities for themselves, such as houses and schools. Some villages have even developed specific customs. For example, the Wayaka people consider it impolite if you do not bring gifts when visiting someone.
Bravo! You've both contributed fantastic points to our conversation. That concludes our session for today. I'll see you next week.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
In today's lecture on international trade, I'm going to look at the issue of protectionism. I'll start off with a definition of protectionism and then go on to look at the methods countries have used to protect their economy. Following this, I'll look at the advantages and disadvantages of protectionism when compared to free and open trade. So let's define protectionism. Protectionism, at its simplest, is the opposite of free trade. It is the practice of protecting domestic industries from foreign competition by using import duties or quotas. Options available to protect the economy are tariffs, embargoes, subsidies and quotas. Let's examine these in turn with some examples. Tariffs are one form of protectionism. It is a tax which is applied to imported goods, but not to home-produced goods. The idea is to make the imported goods more expensive than the home-produced ones, so that consumers buy home-produced items. An ongoing example of protectionism via tariff is between Britain and the USA. Britain buys most of its bananas from Commonwealth countries, largely in the Caribbean. However, the USA owns banana plantations in South America. In 1999, Britain refused to buy bananas from South America, so the US government put tariffs on some British-produced goods. The most famous example was a tariff of 100% import tax on wool products from Scotland brought into the United States. The next method of protectionism is embargoes. An embargo is a complete ban on the import of certain goods. For example, following the Cuban Revolution in the 1950s, the USA banned the import of Cuban cigars. Unfortunately, Cuban cigars are the finest in the world, and there is consequently a thriving black market in Cuban cigars in the USA. As we can see in the example, embargoes can lead to a black market, or unofficial economy, if people want the goods badly enough. Subsidies are a way governments support industries at home with money or tax breaks in order to allow them to compete better with foreign companies. In 1994, the French government provided its national airline with a £2 billion subsidy in order to help it compete with low-cost airlines. However, subsidies can have the effect of making home producers uncompetitive and inefficient. Finally, let's look at quotas. A quota system allows a certain quantity of goods to be imported from other countries. The European Union has had quotas on textiles and clothing for decades to protect its textile industries from developing countries, especially India and China. Understandably, developing countries say that this is unfair and against the principles of free trade. Let's move on now to the arguments for and against protectionism. For trade to flourish between countries, the benefits from trade need to be equally balanced. Where a country feels that it's not getting a fair share of the trade, or that it is somehow disadvantaged, it might employ one or more of the methods of protection. There are at least 4 arguments that may be given for using protectionism. Firstly, to protect employment in the home country. The simple view is that if imports are stopped, then jobs will be saved and even created at home. Secondly, to prevent unfair competition. It is often said that developing countries have the advantage of cheap labour costs in their countries, and that they use this to undercut the price of the same goods produced in richer nations. A tariff might be applied to even out this imbalance. Thirdly, to protect new industries. A new industry, particularly one in a developing country, might not be able to compete with long-established industries elsewhere. Tariffs and quotas give new industries the chance to build up production to the point where they can compete. Fourthly, to raise money. Tariffs were once used as a way of raising revenue for the government. In modern countries, they are now seldom used for this purpose, as the damage to trade often outweighs any immediate benefits. Now for the arguments against protectionism, which are perhaps simpler to summarize. Although trade restrictions might help a country for a short period of time, their overall effect is a negative one. Restrictions affect the flow of trade, and the more countries employ restrictions, the less trade can flow. In the long run, no one benefits from trade restriction, because if one country puts restrictions on another country, the other country then puts their own restrictions on the first country. This affects the first country's exports, and as the country finds it difficult to export goods, then unemployment is the result. So, protection tends to help only the protected and can hide inefficient manufacturers.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.